Hey everyone, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Alex.
Alex, tell me something. Have you ever noticed that meeting someone new in English feels like a movie on repeat? It's always the same sequence.
Let me guess. It starts with, "Hi, how are you?" Then moves on to, "Where are you from?" And, of course, the big one, "What do you do?"
Exactly. It feels like a script that everyone received, but nobody knows who wrote it. It's almost automatic.
It feels like a script, right? But what if I told you that this script isn't a flaw? It isn't a sign of a lack of creativity, but it's actually your greatest superpower to never freeze up in a conversation again?
That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Stick with us to find out how this secret code can unlock your English once and for all.
The main idea is very simple, Sarah. Think of the first conversation with a stranger, especially in another language, like a dance with set steps.
A dance? I love that metaphor. Tell me more.
Imagine you're at a party and you've never danced salsa in your life. Someone asks you to dance. You're not going to try to invent some super complex acrobatic move right away, are you? You're going to start with the basics. 1, 2, 3. Forward, back.
Absolutely. My number one priority would be not stepping on the other person's toes and not falling in front of everyone. The absolute basics.
Exactly. In a conversation, it's the same thing. The repeated questions, our script, are the basic steps of the dance. Hi, how are you? Where are you from? Are the safe choreography that makes sure the interaction starts smoothly, without mistakes, and comfortably for both people. Nobody steps on anyone's toes.
Wow, that changes everything. Because I always felt a little bad for using those phrases. It felt like I didn't have enough vocabulary or that I wasn't creative. But thinking about it this way, it's just a way to start the dance without tripping. It's a safety tool.
That's precisely it. It's a social convention that helps reduce anxiety and the mental effort of having to invent something brilliant from scratch. It's the warm-up before the real game begins. And understanding this is the first step to taking control of the situation instead of being a victim of it.
And speaking of being a victim of the situation, wow, that reminds me of so many times. Can we start with a scenario that I think everyone listening has experienced? That classic moment in line at a coffee shop.
Absolutely. Paint the picture for us.
Okay, imagine the scene. You're traveling, finally, in that country you've always dreamed of visiting. You walk into a super charming coffee shop. The smell of roasted beans is in the air. The line is a bit long, and next to you, there's a person who seems like a local. They look at you and give you a friendly smile.
And then your brain goes into total panic mode. It's a storm of thoughts. Now what? Do I say something? What do I say? My accent is terrible. What if I stutter? What if they don't understand me? What if I misunderstand their answer?
Yes, that's exactly it. It's a mental war that happens in seconds. The opportunity to practice your English, to maybe make a new friend, is right there, smiling at you. But the fear of messing up the first sentence, the first step of the dance, just paralyzes you. You end up smiling back, a little awkwardly, and looking at your phone, pretending you're super busy.
And that moment of paralysis is the key point. Let's analyze what's really happening here. The hidden cost of this mental block. It's not just about losing the chance to talk for 2 minutes.
No, it's much deeper than that. Every time this happens, we reinforce a negative belief in our head. We solidify the idea that speaking English is hard, that I'm not good enough. We start to associate the language with this feeling of anxiety, of failure.
Exactly. The fundamental problem isn't a lack of vocabulary. You probably know dozens of words. The problem is the lack of an action plan for that first step. This hesitation, this uncertainty about how to begin, feeds our insecurity. And the result is that next time, we're even more afraid to try. It becomes a vicious cycle of avoidance.
Totally. I remember one time in Dublin, Ireland, I was at a pub, ordered a beer, and a guy next to me said something about the soccer game on TV. I panicked. I love soccer. I had so much to say, but my mind was just screaming, "Don't mess up, don't mess up." I just ended up smiling and saying, "Yeah, cool." And that was it. The conversation died right there. I felt terrible for the rest of the night.
It's a classic story, and it perfectly shows the problem. The pressure to be perfect stops us from being just good enough to start. But the good news is, there's a very simple solution to break this cycle. A mini solution, a quick win.
And what would that be? Because I definitely needed it in that pub in Dublin.
Your quick win is to have a safety question ready. It doesn't have to be a brilliant question. It doesn't need to be the smartest thing in the world. It just needs to meet 3 criteria. It must be simple, it must be relevant to the context, and most importantly, it must be something you've practiced and feel 100% comfortable saying.
A safety question? Like a personal icebreaker that I carry in my pocket?
Exactly. Going back to the coffee shop example, you're in line, the person smiles. Instead of panicking, you use your safety question for that context. It could be something as simple as, "Hi, what's good here?"
Oh, what a great question! It's perfect because first, it's easy to remember. Second, it's totally relevant to the place. And third, and most important, it invites the other person to give an opinion, a recommendation. You're not putting them in a difficult position. You're asking for simple help.
And that changes everything. The person might answer, "Oh, their cappuccino is amazing." And from there, the door is open. You can continue with, "Great, I'll try that. Thanks." And even if the conversation stops there, you won. You broke the ice, you practiced your English, and crucially, you left the situation with a feeling of success, not failure.
If I had thought of that in the pub, instead of panic, I could have had my pub context safety question ready. Something like, "Hey, which team is playing?" Or, "Is it an important match?" It would have been so much easier, and it would have saved me so much frustration.
That's the key. The human brain is always looking for patterns to save energy and reduce the fear of the unknown. By using these social scripts and having a safety question ready, you're basically giving your brain the pattern it needs to feel safe. You're hacking the system in your favor.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for a social, casual context, like a coffee shop or a pub. Having a safety question in your pocket solves that first interaction. But what about when the context is more formal, like at work? The pressure is higher, the fear of seeming unprofessional is greater. The dance changes its rhythm, right? How do we adjust our steps on this new dance floor?
Excellent point. The dynamic in a professional environment is different, and the cost of silence can also be higher. Let's take our dance to the office.
Yes, think about that super common situation these days. You join an online meeting and it's just you and a colleague from another country in the room, waiting for others to join. There are 2 or 3 minutes before it starts. What happens?
The famous and feared awkward silence happens. You're both there, looking at each other through the cameras, knowing you should say something, but not knowing exactly what. It's a strange vacuum.
And then comes the temptation to use the most overused topic of all time, the weather. It's sunny here today. How about there? Yes, it works to break the silence, but it's so weak. It feels like we're just filling the void with words without creating any real connection. It's like putting elevator music on during our dance.
And the impact of this in the professional world, while subtle, is very important. When you always turn to these generic, impersonal topics, you're not building rapport. You're not creating a bridge with your colleague. Over time, you might just be seen as the person from finance in Brazil, and not as Sarah, who is nice, collaborative, and easy to work with.
Exactly. And these small interactions, these 2 minutes before a meeting, are the glue that builds work relationships. It's in these moments that trust is grown. If you ignore them, the long-term cost is professional invisibility. You do your job, but you don't build bonds. And opportunities for collaboration, for new projects, often come from those bonds.
Once again, there is a mini solution, a quick win to transform this moment. And the strategy here is to use what we can call the shared context.
Shared context. What does that mean in practice?
Instead of looking for a random topic outside of the situation, like the weather, you use the situation itself as your starting point. You are both there for the same reason, the meeting. So use that. A great professional safety question is something like, "Hey Sarah, are you ready for the meeting?" Or a slightly more open one, "How is your week going so far?"
I really like both of those options. Are you ready for the meeting? Is direct, professional, and shows that you're focused on the same goal as the other person. It's efficient.
Exactly. It's a low-risk, high-relevance approach. It turns the awkward silence into a productive warm-up for the meeting that's about to start.
And the second one, how is your week going so far, is even better in my opinion. Because while it's still within a work context, it opens a small window for a slightly more personal answer. The person might say, it's going well, very busy with the new project. And there you go. You already have a new hook to continue the conversation. You create the connection we were talking about.
Perfect. The logic is the same as the coffee shop, but the content of the question is adjusted to the context. At the coffee shop, the shared context is the food and drinks. At work, it's the project, the week, the meeting. The strategy is to look around, identify what you have in common in that exact moment, and use that as the first piece of the puzzle.
Okay, Alex, I'm loving all of this. The dance metaphor, the safety questions, the shared context. It makes so much sense, and it's super practical. But while you were talking, a question came to my mind, a counterpoint.
Go on. What's the counterpoint?
Okay, we're saying that following the script, having the set steps, is a good thing. And I agree. But what if we get too good at it? What's the limit? By mastering this basic dance, don't we run the risk of never learning how to improvise? Of sounding like a robot, always with the same questions, without having truly interesting and authentic conversations? What about spontaneity?
That is the million-dollar question, Sarah, and it's the most important turn in our conversation today. You are absolutely right to raise this issue. The risk of sounding robotic is real if we misunderstand the strategy.
So, how do we use the script without becoming a prisoner of it?
The answer is in the master strategy, the big lesson behind all of this. And the lesson is this: the script isn't the final destination, it's the bridge. Hi, how are you? Isn't the conversation. It's the invitation to the conversation.
The invitation to the conversation, I like that.
Think about it. Why do we freeze at the beginning of a conversation? Because our brain is overloaded. It's trying to think, which word do I use? What's the correct grammar? What do I ask now? Is my accent okay? It's 1,000 things at once. It's impossible to be spontaneous and creative with all that mental noise.
It's the panic we described. Your mind just freezes.
The secret to mastering these basic steps, this initial script, is that you automate them. You practice, hi, how are you? Where are you from? Or your safety question so many times that you no longer need to spend mental energy thinking about them. They come out on autopilot. And what happens when you free up that energy?
Your mind becomes free.
Exactly. Your mind becomes free to do the most important thing in any authentic conversation: to listen, to truly listen to the other person's answer. Their answer is where you find the hook for improvisation. That's where the real dance begins.
Ah, now it all connects. So the idea isn't just to ask the question, but to pay full attention to the answer it generates.
Precisely. Let's go back to the "how are you" example. If you ask that on autopilot and the person replies, "I'm fine, thanks," the conversation might die there. But if your mind is free to listen, you might notice the person's tone of voice. Let's say they answer, "I'm fine, just a bit tired."
And then I, with my mind free from worrying about the next question, can simply react to that information. I can ask, "Oh, why is that? Long week?" Or, oh, I know that feeling. Anything exciting planned for the weekend to recharge?
Bingo! That's it. The script got you on the dance floor. Active listening taught you how to really dance. The script is the entry door. The person's answer is the path the conversation will follow. You don't need to plan 10 steps ahead. You just need to master the first step, so you have the calm and presence of mind to see what the second step will be.
And it's the same thing in the work example. If I ask, "How is your week going so far?" and my colleague answers, "It's been challenging. We have a tight deadline for the X project," I don't need to panic. Their answer gave me the next topic. I can say, "Oh, the X project. I heard about that. How is it progressing?" The conversation flows from their answer.
The master strategy, therefore, is to use the script to create the opportunity. It's a tool to manage your own anxiety and free up your mental resources. The goal isn't to have a scripted conversation, but to use the script to get to the point where the conversation can become genuine and unscripted.
So, in the end, the perfect first conversation isn't about having the smartest words or the most creative questions. It's about building a small bridge of comfort and safety, using these known steps so that a real connection can cross from one side to the other.
You summarized it perfectly. It's about creating a safe space for the conversation to grow. The script is the vase. The connection is the flower that grows inside it.
Wow, I feel like we just gave a very powerful key to our listeners. The idea that the basics are not your enemy, but your best tool is so freeing.
Absolutely. The main message is this: master the basic script of first conversations, not to limit yourself to it, but to use it as a tool that frees you from anxiety. That freedom is what allows you to truly listen, connect, and finally improvise with confidence.
It's about stopping the fight against the current and learning to use it to get where you want to go. A great thought to end on.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. This was a great conversation, Sarah, and thank you for listening.
Now, we want to hear from you. What's your favorite safety question for starting a conversation in English? The one that never fails, whether it's at a coffee shop, at work, or in any other situation. Share it with us in the comments. Your tip might be exactly what someone else needs to get unstuck.
That's right. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chat. Until next time.
Bye, everyone.